How do you want to be remembered?
As not only as an entertainer, but as a person who cared a lot, and I gave the best that I could, and I tried to be the best role model that I possibly could, and the best person that I could. I tried to help out.
Well, I hope we can do this again one of these days soon.
The Grammy goes to Live, Selena.
I'd like to thank the company Capitally My Latin, Jose Bejar, for making tonight possible and having faith in us, putting faith in us 4 years ago. I also like to thank my band, Los Dinos, my father, Abraham, my brother, who's a producer of my music.
I'm Jeff Brady. Coming up on the Night Beat, the woman accused of killing Selena may, in fact, have been her closest colleague and best friend. KSAT 12 unravels the mystery of the Tejano superstar's untimely death.
Also happening tonight, a co-worker of the woman accused of the murder.
We are standing by live in Corpus Christi, right across the street from the Days Inn where this shooting did occur earlier today. If you look behind me, you can see the tail end of a red pickup truck. This is also where police officers and SWAT team members are still trying.
Imagine having a singing gift since birth that would lead you to become one of the most successful Latin artists blowing up the Tejano charts. But what if all that hard-earned success would come crashing down because you were unexpectedly unalived by someone you were close to? Would you still take that life? The tragic story of Selena Quintanilla has traumatized the Hispanic culture for decades. On March 31st, 1995, Selena was fatally shot at a Days Inn motel by a former employee of hers, Yolanda Saldivar. Some call it a case of a crazy obsessed fan. Some call it a story of betrayal. Some call it premeditated murder, or some people like her father would call it all the above. What makes Selena's death so tragic and so overwhelming to the fans to this day is she is the biggest what if in the music industry today. What could have been if she was still alive? This is what we are going to talk about on today's episode of Destructive Stories. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in for another episode. Don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe. Welcome to my channel. We're posting content every other week. I'm excited about what we are going to discuss today, so with all that being said, let's get started. Selena Quintanilla was born on April 16, 1971 in Lake Jackson, Texas. Her father, Abraham Quintanilla Jr., was a former musician who quickly recognized something special about his daughter. Also with her mother, Marcela Quintanilla. They both believed Selena had a perfect singing voice and extraordinary natural talent for it. By the time she was just 9 years old, Selena was already performing in the family band called Selena y los Dinos, alongside her siblings A.B. and Suzette. A.B. would play the bass, and Suzette would play the drums. To get more exposure, Abraham decided to quit his full-time job and start a local Mexican restaurant called Papagayos with his wife Marcela. There, he would have local customers watch Selena and the band perform on stage while they ate. However, after only being in business for a little over a year, the restaurant would have to close its doors. Financial hardship would overtake the Quintanilla family for years to come. After losing their business, they would eventually have to foreclose on their home and move out. They were forced to move to Corpus Christi with relatives to make ends meet. However, Abraham was so eager about Selena's talent that instead of working a full-time job, he tried keeping the band alive by doing promotional concerts at carnivals, birthday parties, or any event where he can get Selena in front of any record label scouts. Abraham took this so seriously that he removed Selena out of school since they were constantly traveling around the state of Texas. However, the financial struggles would continue as Abraham claimed that there were times they would not get paid for any events, and they would have to live off food stamps and lived in a used tour bus traveling the state. However, Selena's popularity was limited as a child due to being a young female singer in a male-dominated Tejano industry. She didn't grow up speaking fluent Spanish, and in her teen years, Selena idolized a lot of 80s pop stars and initially wanted to be a freestyle artist with some hit songs called My Love or Always Mine. However, Selena y los Dinos would continue to get rejected by record label companies, and her agent would tell her father that she should consider doing Spanish music and becoming a Tejano artist. Although she was of Mexican descent, Spanish was not her first language, requiring her to learn lyrics and practice tirelessly to perfect her pronunciation. Over time, her dedication did eventually pay off, and her performances began to captivate audiences. By the late 1980s, Selena had started gaining recognition, repeatedly winning Female Vocalist of the Year at the Tejano Music Awards from her first big hit, Baila Esta Cumbia. Her growing popularity eventually led to a major breakthrough in 1989 when she signed with EMI Latin Records. This opportunity elevated her career, providing professional production and wider exposure. Her early albums began to chart, but it was the release of Entre e mi Mundo in 1992, produced by her brother AB, that solidified her stardom, largely due to the success of her main hit song, Como la Flor, which became a defining track of her career and a symbol of her emotional connection with her fans. While her professional life flourished, Selena's personal life also evolved in meaningful ways. Selena developed a close relationship with her band guitarist Chris Perez, and the two eventually fell in love. The relationship initially faced strong opposition from her father, who feared it might disrupt her career, leading the couple to secretly get married in 1992. Over time, the family reconciled, and Chris became an accepted and important part of Selena's life. Meanwhile, Selena's career reached new heights with the release of her 1994 album Amor Prohibido, which became the most successful Latin albums of its time. Songs like No Me Queda Más, Bidi Bidi Bam Bam, Amor Prohibido dominated the charts, and her influence extended beyond music into fashion and culture. That same year, she also won a Grammy for Best Mexican American Album, solidifying her place as the queen of Tejano music and making a historic achievement for Latina artists in the music industry. As Selena stood on the brink of international superstardom, she began preparing for an English-language crossover album that many believed would propel her into the mainstream American pop success. With Selena y los Dinos blowing up the Tejano charts with hit song after hit song and selling out concerts, the family struggled to manage all the fandom coming in from all over the country. That's where a woman by the name of Yolanda Saldivar would reach out to the Quintanilla family various times after meeting Selena at a nightclub in San Antonio. Yolanda was working as a registered nurse and was persistent in encouraging the Quintanilla family to start a fan club. Selena would end up building a close friendship with her and make her the fan club president, despite Yolanda having no experience in business management. During this time, Selena would also decide to start her own fashion boutique business, since she was passionate about having her own clothing line. However, managing the expenses of the boutique were difficult while balancing her singing career. So again, she hired Yolanda as the main manager of the boutiques located in San Antonio and Corpus Christi. Everything seemed fine at first, but according to former employees, including Selena's main designer, Martin Gomez, the business was deeply struggling when it came to manufacturing, and at times they would struggle to make payroll for the employees. Nothing was out of the ordinary at first, but consistent notices would come to Selena about bills not being paid, which included multiple business expenses. Yolanda was managing all the finances for Selena's business, but Yolanda would claim that she was paying the bills and the checks were not being received. However, the suspicion of Yolanda managing the finances would take a turn for the worst, as fans would reach out complaining about sending in fan club money and not receiving any merchandise or memorabilia they were requesting. When Abraham would investigate the situation, he would discover a pattern of forged checks that were deposited by Yolanda, but some were written under members of her family's name. This infuriated Abraham, which resulted in him, Selena, and Suzette confronting Yolanda about the forged checks, and also covering her tracks by removing a lot of the financial records of both the boutique and the fan club. Abraham, unable to fire Yolanda since she was under Selena's employment, banned her from entering the record studio at Q Productions, where Selena was frequently at. According to the family, Selena was crushed about Yolanda's embezzlement scandal, but maintained a distant relationship with her. However, did remove Yolanda's access from the boutique's bank account and kept her employed for the time being. This would turn out to be a big mistake, because phone conversations and records show that Selena would send Yolanda to Mexico for a business trip in February 1995. Selena would have all of her manufacturing done in Mexico and was doing a new fashion campaign, which included releasing a new perfume. However, Yolanda would fail to come through again and not return any of the documents to Selena to make this campaign happen. According to friends and family, Selena was frustrated and fed up, yet she could not fire Yolanda because she needed to hire a replacement. So she told Yolanda for the time being she could manage the boutique in Mexico and cut off contact with her. But according to her husband Chris Perez, he testified on 3 different accounts Yolanda would frequently call their home, eagerly needing to speak to Selena about the campaign documents. Selena would finally respond, and on March 14th, Yolanda asked for Selena to meet her at a motel parking lot 25 miles outside of Corpus Christi. Selena would not show due to scheduling conflicts. Then on March 27th, Yolanda checked into another motel and asked Selena to come alone. However, Selena would agree, but fans would end up finding out that Selena was heading to that motel, and hundreds of them would gather waiting for her outside, causing the meeting again to be canceled. Selena, already giving up on Yolanda, who just came back from the business trip in Mexico, told Selena on March 29th that she had just been assaulted by an unknown man who was at a Whataburger and was suspiciously following her. On the morning of March 31st, 1995, Selena would agree to take Yolanda to the hospital and have tests done where physicians would find no evidence of any kind of trauma on her body. After leaving the hospital, what is said to be believed by the family, detectives, and witnesses, tragedy would begin to occur. Selena would drop Yolanda off at the Days Inn Motel approximately around 10:30 a.m. They believed that she would fire her from her position and asked for all the boutique financial documents that Yolanda claimed to have. During the meeting, they believed the argument continued, resulting in Yolanda shooting Selena as she was exiting the motel room. Critically wounding her, despite her injuries, Selena managed to run to the motel lobby screaming for help, and a maid who heard the gunshot saw Yolanda chase after Selena and yell out the word, "You bitch," and run back into the room. Selena made it into the lobby, bleeding intensely, where she identified her attacker and the room number before slowly losing consciousness. She was rushed to a nearby hospital but was pronounced dead shortly thereafter. She was only just 23 years old. Her death sent shockwaves throughout the world, devastating millions of fans and making one of the most heartbreaking announcements in music history. During all the madness, police officers would arrive on the scene and come face to face with Yolanda, who was trying to flee in her red pickup truck. She would park in a parking spot and hold a gun to her head, threatening to kill herself. Police negotiators Larry Young and Isaac Valencia were able to get in contact with Yolanda, and for 9 agonizing hours would convince her to drop her weapon and surrender. Yolanda would be arrested and charged with first-degree murder in 1995. Selena's death would overtake the world by storm. Thousands attended her funeral, and tragically, her unfinished crossover album, Dreaming of You, would be released and explode on the Billboard charts, selling over 125,000 copies in just 1 week. Prosecutors were confident that they had a simple case of murder on their hands, since Detective Paul Rivera was able to get a clear and signed confession of Yolanda, who said that she shot Selena out of anger. However, little than a month later, Yolanda would hire an attorney and claim that the shooting was an accident, and pled not guilty on her murder trial that was set to begin in October of 1995. During the trial, the battle of the case was meant to lower the sentence of first-degree murder, and Yolanda would testify that the purpose of her having a gun at the meeting was to kill herself, and Selena was meeting with her, trying to convince her to not go through with her actions, and the gun would accidentally go off. However, the whole list of testimony and overwhelming evidence would debunk Yolanda's claims. For one, it was shown that Yolanda would purchase the gun, a .38 caliber revolver, on March 13th, 1 day before she initially tried to meet with Selena. Yolanda also claimed that she purchased the weapon, claiming that Abraham threatened her and hired men to spy on her business trip in Mexico. Yolanda claimed that she knew a lot of dark secrets about Selena that the family did not want the public to know, which included Selena having an affair with a doctor by the name of Ricardo Martinez, who was helping her with the manufacturing of her clothing line in Monterrey, Mexico. Ricardo would deny these claims when confronted, but Yolanda would also claim that Selena had hidden love letters and sex tapes in a safe locked in a warehouse somewhere in Mexico, which was proven not to exist. The inconsistent testimony of Yolanda was so overwhelming that her initial attorney, Ramiro Estrada, would actually drop out of the case during the trial, due to all the overwhelming evidence that was going against her, and claiming that Yolanda's mental health was the factor. What really destroyed Yolanda in this trial, however, was the various witnesses of former employees and coworkers and even friends of hers that would testify against her about her deep obsession of Selena. People who knew Yolanda before her management said that she had her bedroom filled with Selena posters and had every song and tape that Selena ever recorded. Co-workers at the boutique said that she was extremely possessive of Selena when around her and would create a toxic work environment for both locations. Other overwhelming evidence showed that Yolanda would send a lot of the boutique capital into an unidentified checking account, which was causing a lot of former employees like Martin Gomez to quit their jobs after confronting Selena, who did not believe their claims at the time. Surprisingly, Yolanda was never charged for money laundering. However, on October 23, 1995, after just 3 hours, the jury convicted Yolanda of first-degree murder, and she was sentenced to life in prison. Many fans and the Quintanilla family believe that justice was served, but sadly have come to the realization that this is not going to bring Selena back. Since then, her legacy continues to live on. 2 years after the murder, a biopic movie would be released starring Jennifer Lopez playing Selena in the film. However, the aftermath has continued to bring sorrow and anger at Yolanda and at some point even the Quintanilla family over the years. In 2012, her husband Chris Perez would write a biography about his time with Selena, and Abraham would actually take him to court claiming the name rights of the book. The Quintanilla family in 1998 would also found the Selena Museum in Corpus Christi, showing all of her personal memorabilia of her personal belongings, famous outfits, and other unique things about Selena. Some people have gone as far as criticizing the Quintanilla family about the museum, however, saying that they are using her name to make profit out of her legacy. The Quintanilla family has indeed responded to this criticism in various ways, including A.B. Quintanilla crashing out at a Fiesta concert in San Antonio in 2024, insulting fans and criticizing the city for not dancing to his music. He later made a public apology, blaming his medication for the incident. However, the main backlash would occur in late 2024, where Oxygen would release a documentary series produced by Yolanda's family called Selena and Yolanda: The Secrets Between Them. The purpose behind the documentary was Yolanda and her family trying to justify her actions of the murder and bring back all the original claims, going as far as accusing Abraham of hiring hitmen to kill Yolanda, showing an unreleased interview of Ricardo Martinez admitting to the affair with Selena, and claiming that Yolanda was trying to resign from the boutique the day of the murder. Of course, as expected, these claims were still not proven, and it ended up backfiring on her in February of 2025 as her first parole board was denied. Abraham Quintanilla would eventually pass away a few months later. Selena Quintanilla-Pérez remains one of the most influential Latin artists of all time, remembered not only for her talent and charisma, but also for the cultural barriers she broke and the inspiration she continues to provide to generations of fans. Her memorial remains in downtown Corpus Christi, and her story is one of perseverance, passion, and tragedy. But above all, it is a legacy that continues to live on through her music and impact the world. And this is why it is on Destructive Stories. Thank you guys for watching.